Hi guys, welcome back to Candid Conversations with Caroline and Chris. Thank you so much for your support, for the comments, for the feedback in our past episodes. So last time we had a very interesting conversation around relationships and grief. So today we'd like to talk about grief, but in the context of how most of us know it, which is in death. And I have an amazing set of ladies as my guests today. So they will introduce themselves.
My name is Mary Kenyandri. I'm a mother of two. I'm a counseling psychologist and also I'm a salesperson. Yeah, and I'm God's favorite child. Yeah.
My name is Zipporah Nyangara Mumbi, but I prefer being called Zippy. I am also a mom of two beautiful girls. I am a counseling psychologist and I lead an organization called Haven of Dreams.
My name is Anisha Otieno. I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm a play therapist. I'm a mother of many, and I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. So today we are going to have a very interesting conversation. As much as we had already discussed the stages of grief in our previous episode, if you did not catch that episode, maybe you can go back to it. We are going to talk about the same stages today, but in a different context. So Mary has undergone grief and would like her to introduce that. And as we proceed, the psychologist on board will unpack now to eleze the stages of grief as Mary puts context to it with her personal experience. Can you, Mary? We can start with you.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, November 1st, I lost my husband through a tragic road accident. And it was just a normal day, just a normal Monday morning. He was going back to work in Nairobi. We woke up a normal day, akajitayarisha, akatuombea, na akatoka, akaenda. 45 minutes later, a friend of mine called me. She's called Sue Gashago. And she asked me something. She told me, "Are you in Nakuru?" And I told her, yeah. Na kwa sababu anakujanga kazi Nakuru, she told me, I asked her, "Why are you in Nakuru?" She said, "No, but I'm coming." Then she asked me, "Are you in Nakuru the whole week?" And I told her, "Yes." Then I told her, "Ukifika niambie." And I didn't think anything was off because she's my friend. And she called me again 10 minutes later and told me, "Nataka kukuambia kitu, lakini usistuke." And immediately I knew something was wrong. And then she told me, "Ken amepata accident, lakini yako sawa." And the first thing I went to is shock. And I asked her, "Ken wangu ama Ken mugani?" Ni kama nilikuwa najua Ken mwingine, but nilimuuliza tu, "Ken wangu?" Akaniambia, Nikamwambia ako sawa. And then nikamwambia, "Lakini kwa nini hajanipigia? Kwa nini wewe unanipigia?" Akaniambia, "Hapana, ako sawa, ampeleke hospitali." Nikamuuliza, "Hospitali wapi?" Akaniambia, "Medi." And then immediately she told me, "Na usipeleke gari. Usitumie gari yako. Tunatuma mtu akukujie." And so I hung up. Na nika freeze zile za Ken, accident. And what was going through my mind at that particular time was, Ken, he was a very good driver. I was wondering, Ken, huyo mwenye ametoka saa hii. Yeah? Ametoka saa hii, amepata accident. And I went into a panic mode, you know? And I was waiting to get into a management meeting. So the next thing I did is I texted my boss and told him my husband has gotten an accident. I sitaingia kwa hiyo mkutano. And just dressed. Hata sikuwa nimeoga. nilivaa na lines zangu za wig zilikuwa zinakaa tu venye zinataka. Nikatoka nje. I was in panic mode. I told my house help, nimeambiwa baba Alvin ampata accident. Then when I was leaving, nikitoka nje kwa nyumba, nikaambia msichana wa my neighbor kama my neighbor yuko. Akatoka. And I told her, Mama, prison, Ken ampata accident. And I just broke down. And then na nikamwambia, na wanasema nisidrive. Na ninaona ni kama wananidanganya. Wanasema yuko alive, but naona ni kama wananidanganya. And so immediately she dropped everything she was doing. She asked me, amepelekwa wapi? Nikasema amedi. Akasema, leta kifungu ya gari. You know, so that, because now me, I was wondering, why am I waiting for someone? They are wasting my time. I can just drive to PGH. And after a few minutes, a friend of ours came. Na sasa, akatubeba, akatupeleka PGH. Yeah. Sasa hapo, ndio mambo ilianza.
What were you feeling when you were walking into PGH? Because when you normally walk into a hospital, there's the smell of the hospital. There's a sense of fear. I don't know if I'm the only one who experiences that. Specifically with PGH, probably I have bad memories of that place, but there's just a sense of hopelessness when you walk into a hospital. What was going through your mind?
The only thing that was going through, because the guys who rescued him, nilikuwa nawapigia. There were 2 guys wa pikipiki wenye sasa walimbeba na taxi wakimpeleka hosi. So nilikuwa napiga simu constant nikiwa tu kwa gari nikienda. So wananiambia ako hapa, ako sawa. Nawaambia kwa nini hampatii simu? Unaona? So nikiingia nilikuwa nafikiria he's really injured. No wonder how he can't talk on the phone, you know. So nikaingia na panic, you know, my heartbeat ilikuwa inapiga. So nikaingia nikaambiwa ako casualty. So kwa kichwa yangu niko kwani anaumia aje? So nikaingia. And what was going through my head was, oh God, I hope he's not dead. That was what was going through my head. I just hope he's injured and he's not dead. Yeah.
So maybe Anisha, you can explain psychologically, biologically, what was happening in her brain as she went into shock. What was happening in her brain so that she could, you know, the heartbeat, the palpitations, what was happening?
So, Mary, thank you for sharing that. And even as you're explaining it, I'm just picturing yourself in that situation. Normally, what happens when you get into shock, there are 4 ways that you can react. So you can either flee, freeze, fight, or fawn. And so basically what happened to your head at that particular moment that you went into your freezing, so you could not even understand what was happening in your surrounding. All your brain was focusing on is how to survive that particular event, which was very scary and very traumatic for you. Not knowing whether he's alive or he's dead, not knowing what else to do. So the part of your brain that does the logical thinking and reasoning was completely shut off. And you're now reacting with the amygdala part of the brain, which is now the part of the emotional brain where I need to survive this particular emotion, this particular event right now.
So in simple terms, her body went to war. So it was in survival.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nikaingia. And the first thing nilimpata amelalishwa kwa hiyo kitanda. The stretcher. Yeah. And there was no one attending to him. So nikaingia. He was not injured. Alikuwa tu na scar kadogo sana hapa. So nikamwangalia and I looked at the nurses and I asked them, why are you not attending to him? And everyone was looking at me. And I asked again, why are you not attending to him? No, nime raise voice. So namwangalia. And then immediately I looked at the equipment zenye zilikuwa hapo. Na nika realize hizi ni equipment za kuresuscitate. Unaona? Na nikaona ile wanaingizangwa. And I saw it had blood. So niliangalia equipment, nikamwangalia, alafu nikaangalia nurses. And then nurse moja akafanya hivi. And let me tell you, my world went pitch black. Because they said he was not dead. But now, immediately, nimeingia after like a few minutes, realize anaenda, amekufa, you know. And I think, because hiyo moment ya hapo after that, kuna mali tu nili check out, kitu ili check out. So I'm told I just knelt and started praying. Hapo tu I was praying and I was telling God, kama kuna time nataka ushuke leo. I just want you to calm down and I don't want you to send anyone, I want you to calm down. And then I started asking, what am I going to tell the children? And then I remember nikisimama and I started calling his name. You know, babe, amka. You know, amka. Ninamguza. Like, I started looking for the pulse, you know. I'm in a hospital, but, you know, I became a doctor immediately. Like, I'm thinking, you guys are not, you can't be sure he's dead, let me. So I was trying to look for his pulse. I checked. I did mouth to mouth. I pressed his chest. And I kept telling him, if you're not dead, just press my hand. Okay, too much movies. Like, press my hand, you know? And I think, and I prayed a lot, and I cried a lot, you know? And I think mali ilinidonia amekufa, ni mikono yake ilikuwa baridi. By the time nalia hizo stories zote, bado ni muongo kabisa. So hata unaniambia aje amekufa, si akona joto, I mean. So ikafika mahali mkono zikakuwa baridi. And hapo ndo ilini hit. By the Ken amekufa, you know? And so now I was like, yani amekufa. Yani niko peke yangu. And immediately I felt like there's some covering imetoka. Unaona? And I felt very afraid. Very afraid. Yeah? And watu hospitali ni wafani because after some time there's a guy who came akasema tunanid kumuondoa
Just casually.
Tunanid kuondoa hii mwili.
Nimekuwa mwili sasa.
Mimi niko zile za nani mwili? Is the denial. Yeah? Mwili. So I had to push that stretcher. Nikamweka kwa kakorido. Kakwa hapo GH hapo ni casualty. Kuna kakorido kalikuwa. You know? And I think it was now dawning on me. He's dead. Yeah. It was dawning on me and I was feeling, wow. Yani unajua, hakuwa amegongwa. Alikuwa tunaka katoko hivi. So mimi nilikuwa nashindwa. Yani watu wanapata accident wanagwarwa alafu wanakufa. You know? Because now I didn't know. Nobody was telling me what has killed him. So, na nilikuwa nashindwa. Hii ka scratch kidogo hivi. You know? Do you remember? How? And then, yeah, I don't know. So many people came. I called Carol. And of course, I broke the news, how I break news to her. Like I just called her and I told her, kuja PGH. Then she asked me, nini mbaya? And I just told her, Ken amepata accident na amekufa. Kuja. And I hung up. But by the time she was coming, I was with my neighbor, the lady who picked us. And then immediately, some church people came. And then there's a nurse. lived in our plot uko to PGH. Somebody called her akakuja, and then guys from where I used to live in Kenlands just came. So in a span of like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, kulikuwa kumejaa watu najua. That didn't make it easier, you know, because immediately I knew lazima niandikishe hiyo notification, lazima nikwe. So unaona hizi events zote zikiendelea, sasa pia kichwa haijalala, sasa kichwa imeanza kukimbia. Unaona, I need the notification. Kwa sababu mimi ndio bibi, I need the notification. So nikaambiwa niende niandikishe notification. Niende niandikishe, ni sign papers za zile vitu walikuwa wamefanywa hapo OC. Same dude who came and said tuondoe mwili came and asked, nani atamtoa nguo? And I'm like, okay. Anatolewa mpaka nguo ndio sasa apelekwe morgue. Pole tu inaanza kunidonia by the way ameenda. You know, but the nurse was a neighbor and one of his friends ndio hapo kwetu wakatoa. Sasa hiyo hata siko hapo, niko huko naandikisha sijui nini. Mimi mwenyewe hata sijielewi, naambia manasi nipimeni pressure, wananiangalia tu. Kwa sasa nasikia kichwa na spiral, nasikia sina nguvu, sina nini, nasikia tu nimechoka.
But the things that you need to do kama kusign vitu, now it's like your body imeenda kwa autopilot. I need to do this, so let me do it. But you're not like you're not in touch with reality.
So after that, after signing all those things, sasa si niandikishe tena kwa morgue. You know, nikaenda nikapata huyo jamaa hapo kwa morgue, nikaandikisha, and I said I want to see his body. And let me tell you, when you're dead, I can't really. Because I don't know what they do between transferring you from ama kwenye umetoka to the morgue. Because niliingia and he looked so different from like 30 minutes ago. Kama hizo madawa za morgue wamelidunga ama ni maji wamemwagilia, alikuwa amechange color, yani but namguza miguu as in ako kwa morgue. And so nilirudi kwa morgue kama tatu.
I'm just trying to,
you know, natoka narudi. Natoka narudi. Who confirm too?
Is this person dead?
Is this person dead? Yeah. And then finally, no, the real journey of going to tell the children started.
Wow.
Yeah, that was very tough because you have to be a mother at that point. So it does not matter whether you are now not even grieving because the grief has not started. Now you have to. And these children, one of the children is in day school. So it means in the morning aliambiwa na baba yake bye.
Yeah.
So how do you go at around 11, 12 by midday? How do you go to tell that child by midday that
The dad is no longer there.
Yeah. And so we went to school. I called the head teacher, Washanis, and I called the head teacher for Alvin in Cabernet. So my daughter was in primary, my son was in high school. And nikawapigia because sikuwa nataka tu kutokea. So nikaenda convoy tu, tukaenda mpaka shule. Nikafika, nikaingia, head teacher, and then sasa Shamisa akaitwa. That time, ndani naomba tu. Because I don't even, I've never been a widow. Yeah? So naomba tu, najiuliza sasa mtoto atatake hii story aje. And I remember telling you guys, nobody breaks the news to my children. I break the news to my children. They are my children, and they need to feel safe. Yeah? And when she came in, she looked at me and said, "Mom, you are crying." And because we have a very good relationship with my children, I told her, yeah, I was crying. And akakuja akakaa karibu na mimi, and I told her there's some news I need to tell you. And I told her when Daddy was going to work in the morning, he got into an accident. And Daddy's dead. Like I said it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Dad, hiyo kilio huyo mtoto bado naisikianga.
Mm-hmm.
She really cried. Yeah? And the head teacher prayed. And then akashikilia tu Karen. She didn't want anything to do with me. Not in a bad way, but I think she was safe. Karo. Na wakatoka sasa tukaanza safari ya kwenda home. The most trying part for me in that whole thing was taking Ken to the mortuary and breaking the news to Shanice. And si tukaenda home. So kushuka gari, nguo za Ken zilikuwa kwa gari ya Elda kwa kanisa.
Nguo zilikuwa machori.
Nguo zenye alikuwa amevaa. Let me tell you, it was so hard. Sasa si wakanipatia zimekunjwa, the trousers, the socks, the vest, the shoes. So najaribu kuingia kwa compound. And that was the most painful part. Unajua nimebeba nguo hivi za mtu anatoka kwa nyumba kama asubuhi, like nimerudi na manguo na viatu. Kitu tu imefanya ni koti imetea hapa, but hazina mpaka damu ati. That was so painful. Because nilizishika nikajiuliza aje sasa hizi ni nguo za nani? So for me that was denial and disbelief. Like, what is this? Yeah? That was really hard for me. Kuingia kwa nyumba na hizo manguo. Yeah? If there's anything kwa hiyo kifo yote apart from that day, mpaka wa leo inanifanyanga nasikia ni kubeba hizo manguo. I don't know. Siwezi taka mtu apite kitu kama hiyo. I feel that pain. Yeah, mtu ametoka ameenda job, unarudi na manguo. It was very painful. Yeah. Very painful. Yeah. And so much was running through my head. And I felt like, yani kila mtu ananiona nimebeba manguo za Ken. Yani bwanangu amekufa. Yeah, it was hard.
Maybe Zippy, you can explain what happens to a person when they're in that state of now denial, where now, because the beginning was actually not, the grief had not started at that point. Now this is the point where now it's, you're going back home, the children know now it's a reality. So what happens, the denial bit of it in context.
Okay. Thank you, Mary, for sharing and feeling safe in this space. So when it comes to issues of denial, what usually happens is that one, like you say, we go in a state of disbelief. Mtu alienda wapi? Mbona ameenda? And sometimes you feel like you also want to disconnect from people, especially the fact that when you're talking about grief and in our African setting, mtu akienda, the first thing tunaambiango aje ilikuwa mapenzi ya Mungu. And I think maybe those are some of the statements that you had. But then you're like, mapenzi ya Mungu, mbona mimi nikue mjane na huyu ni Mungu mgani? Kama ni mapenzi ya Mungu, basi kwa nini hakuchukua wako akachukua wangu? And then also denial also happens differently for different people, and especially pia space yenye uko. And when it also comes to denial, and when you're talking about grief, it's not like you will say that I will deny that Ken is dead for 2 hours, and then after that I accept. It's different for different people, and maybe even as you continue with your story, maybe there are days that afterwards you still felt like hapana hajakufa. Maybe and when it comes also kwa issues that denial, what happens is that you start imagining things in terms of hajakufa, maybe ilikuwa bad news, ama ilikuwa mistaken identity. I need to confirm kabisa. And part of even you being in denial is when now you are calling him babe, amka. Mpaka unaanza sasa unaona madaktari wao walienda Caromaindo school. Sasa
No, she's the medic.
wewe ndio the medic, unajua, and things like that. And also the fact that pia you being now a mom. There's also the aspect here, na watoto wangu watalelewa bila baba. So what is happening at this stage? And then denial does hainanga ati a linear way. It's the same thing with grief. Haina a linear way ya kusema I will be in denial right now, and then, or I will deny to this level. Because something else that could be inaweza kuwa pia in denial is the fact that hey, amekuwa mwenda zake, sasa nani atakuwa akinipatia mapenzi? Like where are you going to? Are you still coming back? Or you even feel like ataenda, atarudi, or maybe especially being that you are spiritual and even a Christian, you could even go to the point ya sasa ni maombi. Si Mungu alifufua Lazaro, pia can also go through the same thing. So those are some of the things that happen during denial.
And so just to add on that, is that even right now, as time has gone by, there's another, or like for a widow, that status, you already change, your status changes. So imagine 3, 5 months, years down the line, that status, when someone calls you like, I'm a widow, how am I can do it? Because that is still also denial.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And also denial as a way of coping. Because now you remember when Anisha was explaining about the brain and the brain, locking and everything, you have to cope. You have ego defense mechanisms, and denial is one of the best. It's not the best, like it's a negative coping mechanism, but it's on the top of the list. So it's easy because you're like, I need to sign these things. I need to
become a mom.
So I need to do all those things. So while I'm doing these things, itabidi tu mse kwanza nimweke huko kwa background. And I remember when I walked in, bado alikuwa kwa stretcher for that space, and you really prayed a lot. And the, what do we call it? The thought that was domineering was your children. So you really kept praying for, as much as you're still touching him, even then, because I think it was around 45 minutes later, you're still, touching him and still praying for the children, but still there was a part of you that was like apana, still trying to wake him up. And as she described, he only had a cat, and he looked very alive and very warm, kabisa. Like those, you would not believe it. It didn't make sense at all. No broken bones, nothing.
And I think also that was why alikuwa in denial. Like she said, kakat kadogo tu hivi ndio itafanya mtu agongwe na aende.
Yeah. So after that, sasa nikaingia kwa nyumba. Same day the church came in, and my brother and my sister, they came, and there was a committee that evening. Because niliingia kwa nyumba, when they came, I said, mi sijui watu wanafanyanga committee aje, mi hata sijui watu wanazikangwa aje. Okay, not that I have not attended, but this was my husband. And they told me, you have nothing to do with this, And so the journey started. The following day I had to go pick my son, and the disbelief in his face and the crying. and the crying all the way back to Nakuru was very heartbreaking for me as a mom, because sasa mimi nilikuwa nashindwa sasa nitafaa wafanya nini hao watoto, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember that day it got to a point, it's the same day nilikaa kwa floor,
The first day.
I think nilifika kwa nyumba, nikakalia kiti, alafu nikasikia, nikateremka chini, nikakaa kwa floor.
I remember you, sorry for interrupting, but I remember you just said, Kai, and you just sat down and, you know, it was a sense of hopelessness.
Yeah, I felt very hopeless, and I felt very alone, and I kept wondering, watu wote wako kwangu. Yani nikienda amekufa, si jokes.
Yeah.
And I remember hata hiyo maombolezi ikiendelea, because I was very involved with everything. And people grieve differently. Someone may decide hakuna kitu anaweza kufanya. But for me, I felt like I knew this man. I didn't want anyone to choose clothes for him. I didn't want anyone to choose his coffee. I wanted to do everything for him, because I kept feeling hakuna siku ingine nitamfanyia hizo vitu. Yeah, na nilikuwa natoka nikiendea hata vitu zake Nairobi, nikirudi nashindwa aje. Hii intent iko kwangu, haiko. Iko kwangu nje. And every time nilikuwa naingia kwa plot nashindwa. Yani intent iko kwangu. Yani amekufa. You know. And it was really hard. It was really hard.